Aethelgard felt like a chapel devoted to extravagant art. Beneath the soft golden lights, crystal glasses clinked delicately like church bells. Red wine swirled in their bowls, dark and thick like the blood of a lazy god. The men were immaculate in tuxedos. The women looked as though they'd stepped off the cover of Harper's Bazaar. Whispers floated like mist, the kind of talk that only the elite could afford when every word held weight. From a distance, a piano whispered Chopin's Nocturne No. 20. And then the camera glided past it all and stopped at Liam. His uniform was crisp to the last crease, but the soles of his shoes were worn thin. The silver tray in his hand didn't tremble even with a single glass of wine, but his shoulders drooped slightly as if he carried a world no one else could see. He smiled a pleasant, perfectly measured smile, the kind expected in high-end service. But in his eyes, there was something else, a quiet tension persistent and dim like the last flicker of an oil lamp. Liam. The voice slithered like a snake across the floor. Derek, the manager. Grey suit, eyes sharp as a razor. He placed a hand on Liam's shoulder, smiling without warmth. Table 12. Real estate investors. Wine main course dessert. Upsell everything. Your numbers are the lowest tonight. And Liam, he leaned in close, whispering, like a hiss, "Don't let the whale swim away." He walked off, leaving behind the cold sting of expensive cologne and pressure. Liam gave a slight nod, like a soldier receiving orders. But he didn't head to the table right away. In a dim corner near the service elevator, he pulled out his phone. A thin crack ran across the screen like a strand of hair. The video call connected. "It's me, Mum." Her face appeared aged pale skin, tinged blue from struggling for every breath. Yet she smiled. A smile that made Liam's heart ache. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Really. Did you eat anything today?" "Yes, Mum. The restaurant's busy, but it's all fine." He turned slightly, hiding the tears that welled in his eyes. "Remember to take your meds, okay? The doctor said we need to place the deposit this month to get on the transplant list. But don't worry, I'll take care of it. His voice cracked. "I promise. A promise." The biggest lie he'd ever told. The call ended. The screen went black. Liam stood still, his hand clenched so tightly that his fingernails left marks in his palm. In the silence, he could hear his own heartbeat. Thud, thud. He looked up at his reflection in the elevator door. A slight tremble. Then the smile returned, neat, precise, flawless. Like a mask switched on. Liam stepped out of the shadows and walked into the spotlight of a battlefield no one else could see. On the 68th floor of a glass tower overlooking Central Park, Arthur Vance's penthouse was completely silent. No expensive oil paintings, no bronze sculptures, no traces of a man, once listed among Forbes' top 10 self-made billionaires. Only a brown leather sofa, a low shelf filled with vintage cookbooks, and a crooked photo frame on a dark ebony table inside it. An Italian immigrant woman stood in a rented kitchen, hands covered in flour, smiling brightly. Arthur stood before the mirror. His silver hair was neatly combed, the expensive suit removed, and hung carefully nearby. He now wore a wrinkled white shirt and dark slacks. On the table lay a salt and pepper wig, a scruffy fake beard, and old, plastic-framed glasses, all meticulously prepared. He let out a deep sigh. His voice echoed like a monologue, yet sounded more like a whisper to the figure in the photo frame. "They call it Aethelgard now, Mom. But to me, it's always been your dream." He looked at his reflection in the mirror. But what stared back wasn't a billionaire. It was the boy who once carried stacks of dirty dishes in the back of an Italian restaurant, 12-year-old shoes full of holes. You used to say, Arthur served them like you're serving your own mother. He bent down and picked up the photo frame. His hand trembled slightly. They charge $350 now for a piece of A5 Kobe beef. His voice dropped. But do they serve kindness? Do they offer gratitude? Do they even remember why that place was built in the first place? He placed the frame down, carefully, like a ritual. Tonight, I'm not looking for a skilled employee. I don't need someone who can upsell wine or memorize VIP names. I'm looking for your spirit. I need to know if it's still alive. Step by step, Arthur affixed the fake beard, adjusted the wig, and straightened the glasses. Each motion stripped away a piece of the man he had become CEO spokesperson icon. What remained was Arthur the boy, who once served tables in silence, who learned to read a customer's needs by how they held their knife. He looked at himself one last time in the mirror. An old man, face slightly worn, eyes heavy, but not from age, from the weight of watching his legacy die, day by day in the hands of those who only saw payrolls and profit margins. Tonight, he whispered almost like a prayer. If I don't find it, I'll shut that place down with my own hands. He turned away. His shadow vanished behind the door, leaving the cold penthouse staring out over the city. Table 12 was the most beautiful spot in Aethelgard, right by the glass wall overlooking Central Park, like a green tapestry stitched with streetlights. But tonight, to Liam, it felt like an execution platform. Arthur, or rather the stranger with the scruffy beard and salt and pepper wig, was already seated, reclining slightly in his chair, fingers tapping rhythmically on the table edge. His eyes swept across the room like those of a silent judge. Liam approached back straight wine tray steady in his hands, without so much as a tremble. Good evening, sir. I'm Liam, your server tonight. May I offer you something to start? Arthur didn't look at the menu. He glanced down at his seat instead. This chair is uneven. In a place like this, I'm expected to dine like a man about to fall over. Liam froze. He bent down and adjusted the chair leg. I'm terribly sorry, sir. Let me fix that right away. Arthur gave a curt nod, then picked up the napkin with 2 fingers, as if lifting a dead cockroach. Smells like bleach. That scent. Diluted ammonia, isn't it? Liam stiffened. We use organic products, sir, but I can replace it, Arthur cut in, placing the napkin at the edge of the table. I won't wipe my mouth with chemicals. Liam turned away. Each step grew heavier. He felt the eyes of neighboring tables. Not many, just glances, but enough to make the air around him feel thick like smoke. Returning with a fresh napkin, Liam forced a smile. Arthur hadn't touched the menu. Kobe beef, he said. I want A5 from Japan, but only if you can tell me the cow's 3-generation lineage. Liam froze. I know they're fed beer and massaged. Arthur let out a soft chuckle. Not the kind of laugh born of amusement, but one distilled from contempt. You don't know, do you? You're just a plate-carrying machine, aren't you? Liam swallowed. Another cut, not by knife, but by words, and eyes, and the calculated silences between sentences. Arthur sipped his water, frowned. This tastes like failure. Then came the bread dry, as a politician's promise. The tablecloth wrinkled like your life, I suppose. Liam said nothing. He wasn't allowed to. In this world, resistance was suicide. He simply obeyed, veins on his hand, raised against the strain of gripping the tray. From the bar, Derek watched through the internal monitors. 4 cameras captured table 12 from every angle. He tapped lightly on his tablet screen, flipping to the individual sales tab. Liam's name was dead last. He frowned. On screen, the guest was complaining about water about napkins, about everything. Derek muttered, "Not my table, not my problem." He turned to glance at a couple of influencers live streaming their 24K gold dessert. Keeping them happy matters more than some whiny server. And with that, Derek turned away. In the kitchen, Izzy was seasoning the lobster bisque. It was her pride, her own recipe perfected over 12 years. Liam entered. His face was pale. He held out the dish. "Guest says, it tastes like despair." Izzy froze. What she tasted it. Perfect. Not salty, not sweet, just right, with a lingering finish. "Are you sure?" he said that Liam only nodded, didn't speak. Just a heavy nod, like his entire body was collapsing inward. Izzy peeked through the round kitchen window. She saw Liam's back hunched, saw the guest lift his glass as if deciding whether to smash it on the floor. She gripped her knife. Her knuckles turned white. It felt like someone was digging into her soul through every dish she made. "He's not attacking the food," she whispered to the sous chef. "He's attacking the boy." A simple sentence, but it carried fire. She stepped to the kitchen door, stood there staring through the glass. She didn't walk out, not yet, but her eyes were a warning. If anyone had shame, they'd stop. But the guest didn't. And the others, no one did anything. Liam walked past his co-workers like a shadow. No one asked if he was okay. No one touched his shoulder. They just stepped back slightly, clearing the way as if he were a stain. No one wanted to get on them. That night, Aethelgard rang with no clinking glasses. Only the heavy sound of silence, what some might call apathy, wrapped in gold. The A5 Kobe beef, the most expensive item on the menu, was brought out in silence. Perfectly medium rare, the center is a soft pink, like a beating heart. Melted fat glistened across the surface like a polished mirror plated on pristine white porcelain encircled by delicately carved chrysanthemum petals and a thick demi-glace sauce gently dusted with Himalayan salt that sparkled like diamond dust. Liam placed the dish on table 12. Carefully, both hands lifted the tray as if offering a sacred ritual. His heart was racing, but his hands remained steady. This was his chance to redeem everything. Arthur didn't look at the dish. He looked at Liam. Seconds passed. The atmosphere in the restaurant began to shift, something only the rich could sense. A vague unease rippled out, like water disturbed. Arthur picked up the knife. Didn't cut, didn't taste. He simply nudged the plate toward the edge of the table. A silent motion, but it rang out like a slap across the face. Liam stood still. Every muscle in his body is taut. Arthur rose. The chair screeched against the wooden floor with a sound like metal scraping glass. Conversations fractured mid-sentence. He lifted his wine glass, swirled it slightly, then looked around. "Excuse me." His voice carried across the room. Not loud, just clear. Calm. Dangerous. "I've dined all over. Paris, Kyoto, Florence. I've been served by people who treated cuisine as a religion." He turned back to Liam. "And never have I been so insulted by a piece of meat." Liam opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Arthur held up the bill, smiled, but it wasn't joy. It was a smile sharp as a razor. $350. For this incompetence, he roared. "Get the manager, call the police. This place is a scam." A fork dropped. A chair scraped back. The murmurs rolled in like thunder. Someone raised their phone to record. A couple left without touching dessert. Liam stood there. His eyes didn't blink. No redness. No tears. The world around him faded. Chandeliers overhead turned to blinding streaks. Sounds collapsed into a constant ringing in his ears. He saw everything, but felt as if he wasn't really there anymore. He thought of his mother, her voice barely an hour ago. That fragile smile, her blind faith in the son who would take care of everything. He thought of the number on his phone, the cost of the heart transplant, the end-of-month deadline, the money he had to earn through silence, through endurance. And now, all of it was slipping into smoke. His lips pressed slightly together, but didn't tremble. His eyes empty. Something had broken inside him. Not tears, not pride, but the fragile belief that if he were good enough, the world would be kind in return. Private room. Now. Arthur's voice rang out firm and final, leaving no room for argument. Liam followed. No resistance, no thought. His mind was blank, emptied by the storm. The hallway leading to the VIP room was chillingly silent. The door clicked shut behind him with a dry snap. Only two people were in the room. No audience, no clinking glasses, no cameras. Arthur stepped toward the large mirror on the wall. Then slowly, he raised his hands. Liam stood still, vacant eyes, watching as if witnessing something entirely unreal. The wig came off first, revealing a balding head dusted with silver. The fake beard peeled away in sections, adhesive, unsticking, like the skin of a discarded mask. The glasses were removed and set on the table as lightly as if they had just fulfilled their final task. Liam blinked. He took a step back. His whole body trembled. "Mr. Vance." The words spilled out reflexively, half fear, half disbelief. Arthur turned to him. The sharpness and fury in his eyes were gone. What remained was fatigue, a deep, time-worn sadness that had lived too long in silence. "I am Arthur Vance," he said, voice hoarse, quiet, almost a whisper. "I'm the man who washed dishes until I was 23, who built Aethelgard with nothing but his bare hands." Liam said nothing. He didn't dare. Arthur stepped closer, the space between them, now fragile, almost sacred. "Tonight, I wasn't testing the food." He paused, locking eyes with Liam. "I was testing the heart of this place." Silence. "I needed to know if the soul of my mother, the woman who taught me how to cook, how to serve, was still here." A long pause. Liam just stood there, arms stiff at his sides. "And I saw it," Arthur continued, voice softening into something like a confession. "I saw it in the way you picked up a dropped napkin that no one noticed, in the way you took a slap and still apologized. I saw it in the way you stood alone, while the entire restaurant turned its back on you." Liam opened his mouth, but his throat locked up. He wanted to say something, sorry, deny it, or simply thank you, but every word shattered before reaching his lips. "You weren't serving food," Arthur whispered. "You were serving dignity. And that's something that can't be trained, can't be bought." Liam dropped to his knees, not out of will, but because his legs could no longer carry the weight of the shock and the truth. Arthur knelt down and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Get up, son." His voice was soft as the wind, but his eyes blazed like fire. "The storm is over." Liam sat on the black leather chair in the private room, head bowed, low hands clenched between his knees. The room was so quiet, even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to drift further away. No one spoke for several minutes. At last, Arthur broke the silence, his voice barely more than a breath. "Speak." Liam looked up. His eyes were still red, but this time not from humiliation. It was the kind of redness that comes when a long-buried wound finally begins to crack open. "I had no other choice," he rasped. "My mom, she needs a heart transplant. They said we need to place a deposit before the end of the month. But who's going to hire me for extra hours? Aethelgard forbids unauthorized overtime." He paused, taking a shaky breath. His shoulders trembled. "I tried everything. Sold my laptop. Slept on a hostel floor. ate instant noodles 6 days straight. I thought if I just worked hard enough, smiled enough, maybe guests would tip, maybe management would notice. But then he let out a laugh, a dry, broken sound caught in his throat. Even when I was humiliated, I couldn't react. Because if I lost this job, my mum would lose her life. Arthur said nothing. No further questions. He slowly reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small keychain and a sleek plastic card. He placed them on the table in front of Liam. Keys to an apartment in the Upper East Side, funded by the Vance Foundation. Exactly 3 minutes from Mount Sinai Hospital. Liam's eyes widened. And this, Arthur said, holding up the card, is a credit card linked directly to the Foundation's account. All treatment costs, medications, food, everything covered, no conditions. Liam didn't move. He sat frozen, as if the room around him had been suspended in time. This Monday, Arthur continued, his voice growing firm. You won't be coming here to carry trays. You'll report to my office. You're going to be the first apprentice in my succession program. I'll teach you everything: management, operations, HR, finance. But why me? Liam's voice still trembled. I'm not special. Exactly, Arthur nodded. You didn't try to be special. You just tried to be kind. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, you choose patience, silence, and resilience. You carry something money can't buy. Dignity. The door swung open. Izzy walked in, eyes rimmed with red. She said nothing. She simply walked over and wrapped her arms around Liam from behind a firm embrace that needed no words. Behind her, Derek appeared, pale. He moved slowly, like a man entering a tribunal. He looked at Liam not like a superior, eyeing a subordinate, but like a man facing the one he had failed. I'm sorry, Derek's voice was hoarse, honest, stripped of arrogance. I saw you take the hits, and I turned away. I was a coward. Liam looked at him. A long moment passed. Then he nodded. Not an easy forgiveness, but a silent acknowledgement. I understand, and I choose not to hate you. Izzy placed a hand on both their shoulders. We fix everything, starting today. The three of them stood there, in a quiet room, not needing glory, not needing applause, but with one thing that mattered most: a new beginning. 6 months later. Aethelgard still shimmered with elegance, but the atmosphere had changed. It no longer felt like entering a cold palace. Now each step into the restaurant felt like an invisible handshake, warm, gentle, and inviting. Liam stood near the front desk, dressed in a well-fitted navy suit, his tie neatly knotted, and a small silver spoon pin on his lapel, the new symbol of the restaurant. He leaned slightly forward, speaking softly to a new staff member. Watch the guest's eyes. Liam said, his voice calm and warm. They might not say anything, but if they glance around, it means they need something. Don't wait for them to ask. The new server nodded nervously. Liam gave his shoulder a light pat. You're doing great. Trust your instincts. A few feet away, Derek was bringing coffee to a group of servers just off shift. He smiled, joked with them, then sat down to listen as a young busser recounted a tricky customer encounter. No more iPad, no sales dashboards in front of him. Just a man relearning how to be human. In the kitchen, Izzy was teaching a new apprentice how to prepare the lobster bisque. But this time, she wasn't muttering in frustration. She was smiling. A genuine smile, like she was showing her niece how to season a family recipe. Upstairs in a quiet office, Arthur Vance sat before the security monitor. He didn't show up much anymore, but every week he reviewed the footage from every shift, not to catch mistakes, but to search for the only thing he ever truly cared about: whether the soul of this place was still alive. On screen, he watched Liam helping an elderly guest rise from her seat, gently resting his hand on her elbow, bowing slightly. No wasted movement, no exaggerated charm. Arthur leaned back in his chair and smiled. Liam's phone buzzed. He looked down, and immediately his expression softened. He pulled it out and answered, "It's me, Mum." Her voice came through stronger than ever. "I just wanted to say, I love you." Liam paused in the middle of the foyer chandelier, light shimmering on his hair. He smiled, not the professional, polite kind, but a real one. Deep, peaceful. "I love you too," he said, and ended the call. The restaurant doors opened. A small family walked in. A mother, a father, and a little girl, around 6. The girl tugged her mother's hand and whispered, "This place smells like Grandma's cookies." Liam bowed gently and led them to the window-side table. The screen slowly faded to black. A line appeared. "Some things are priceless." If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Toch Story so you never miss another soul-stirring journey.